We're coming at you live from West Tennessee.
West? Are we in West Tennessee?
No.
It doesn't feel like it.
But we
we're in
could
East
be when
Tennessee.
they hear this.
That's true. Could be. Welcome aboard, folks. That was a quick trigger by you, too. We didn't even do our pre-show tune-up. It is November 9th.
Kind of did.
2021 for us. This is a Tuesday. We're pre-recording for before run camp. For you, it's more than likely a Thursday. Welcome aboard, guys. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We are episode 529. Correct?
Yeah.
I'm on a roll lately, dude. I'm like clockwork. We appreciate you tuning in.
It's like predicting the weather.
That's right. Once every blue moon. It is, speaking of weather, it is a absolutely gorgeous day here in Chattanooga. It is sunny. It is gorgeous. We are headed to run camp here immediately following the podcast. And as we're recording this a little bit early, we're going to dive back in here shortly after our intro and finish up the Q&A or the questions that we had in our Facebook group. But yes, we are headed to the beautiful land of Nunley, Tennessee, in the middle of nowhere. And when I say middle of nowhere, most people think like some like disgusting, like, you know, podunk, redneck kind of disgusting-ness. Not Nunley. Well, at least not where we're staying by chance. Like, I remember the first time we drove out there, we were like, this might not be.
There was
you
some
know,
banjos playing in my head.
There's some banjos, some banjos, some stray dogs, some dangerous folk around there with shotguns that they don't know, because everyone knows you don't live there, right? Because like getting off the exit and like making our way to
there they go again.
Yeah, they're like, you ain't from around here, are you? You know, like we roll up in the Dollar General,
I had to
get some
turn around
Snickers
in
and
some
Coke.
guy's driveway once, and it was
Good luck. I mean, like when I was flagging it, the very first time I was putting signs up for the turns, I mean, I almost got attacked 4 times by at least like a bear, a coyote, and like some kind of like wild rabid tiger. But there was all
stray
kinds
dogs.
Yeah, stray dogs. But then when you get there, you get to 5-star retreat, and it's absolutely it's gorgeous. And they got 6 cabins now. They have a lodge that sleeps 40. We just park ourselves, and then we have and don't leave till Sunday. Get a lot of mileage in. Get a lot of connecting, hanging out with our friends, sitting in the Normatec booths, eating a lot of food. We get the food catered in on for dinner every night. We don't leave, and that is without question, that's the best part. You park, you don't get back in your car until Sunday.
Yeah, well, you ain't got to tell me.
Oh, I know. Listen, that's right up your wheelhouse.
I live above the hub here.
Yeah,
and I'm really thinking about getting into DoorDash a lot more, because even just driving down to the grocery store.
You're gonna use DoorDash, or you're gonna become a DoorDash driver?
No, I'm not gonna drive.
I was gonna say, like,
it'll take forever.
They're like, look at Mike Terrelli,
DoorDash
DoorDash driver, 1 star. What's his driving radius? Within 300 feet of the hub and his condo, he'll actually bring you your food. Whenever he is actually going out to get his own food, he'll be happy to take your order for an additional charge.
Yeah. The good news, I'm hearing there's a new Publix opening down the street here.
There is.
Or not right. It's probably closer for me.
It's about 2.5 miles.
The navigating across the river thing is getting on my nerves.
It's a little dangerous. And here we go back again with you getting across the river. I had to live with that. We were in Nashville. It's like, I was like, where do you want to meet, man?
Weird.
I was like, I mean, I was like, I'm not going across the river. So everywhere you go, there's a river, and you don't cross it. Like, it doesn't matter if there's, all kinds of greatness on the other side. You're like, I think I'm just going to stay on the side of the river. I'm not crossing that bridge. I'm not going over to the, But yeah, there's new Publix going over at like the point of St. Elmo. They're putting in that brand new Publix, and what they say, if you want to follow the money, follow the Publix, because usually they pop up when things are growing.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. Well, Chattanooga's doing well. As I've told you yesterday, I went out for that little run, and I popped out off of the river walk, and there was a big regatta going on.
All weekend.
It was like massive. I couldn't run through it. It was so many. They were just carrying those, as you say, the ponytail.
Yeah, ponytail. I ran through too the day before and almost got impaled.
Looking.
It's a very dangerous sport. I'm sure it is a high,
especially when they're carrying those things around runners.
Yeah, if you've done Ironman Chattanooga and you thought that was a big deal, no, this was a huge deal. There was at least 100 tents of each individual row club, if that's what you call them, row club or regatta crew. Sounds like a hip hop band, Regatta Crew. Yeah. You heard that new single by the Regatta Crew? Yeah. But no, it was awesome. But the city is always popping. There's always something going on. So come see us. We have a townhome for you. You can learn more about that on our website, c26triathlon.com. If you want to book it, it's 4 stories, 4 bedrooms, sleeps 10, 3 baths. Great view of Lookout Mountain, great view of the sculpture field. And you can book a hub visit if you want as well. Swim analysis, all that info is on the website. Or if you have any questions about that, you can always email Summer. She's at c26operations@gmail.com. Then we have our club membership that's been going on. And we have had a tremendous outpouring of athletes that have come in and taken advantage, especially the Club Plus program, because it's an insanely affordable option. You never say cheap; you always say affordable, because when you say cheap, it cheapens the product. It is incredibly affordable and a great package and great product.
Call it Jippy.
You call it Jippy. That's like an off-brand peanut butter. But if you want to be a part of that, do it now, because right now it looks like we're going to fill up to pretty much capacity fairly quick. So I think right now we're going to cut that off at December 15th, so about a month from now. So get on that. If you have any questions about it, all the info is on the website, or you can specifically email Mike. He's at crushingiron@gmail.com for more info about that. And now, back to our show. Do you like that? That's our own little intro.
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, it's your first time listening. Welcome aboard. We usually do a soft intro, but we got straight into our marketing spiel. We appreciate you tuning in.
I thought that was the intro.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
that's a good intro.
It's fine. It's
Don't
a good intro.
forget about the club and the hub.
The club and the hub package that's going on.
Anybody's already joined the hub or club, you can still do this. But I think this is a pretty good one too. Like if you're wanting to set yourself up for next year, what we're offering basically is the Club Plus a hub experience where you come in and Robbie and I go through swim analysis, bike testing, run form, bike fit, all that kind of stuff. Get you dialed in. Plus, you get 2 nights stay in our beautiful condo for $999.
It really is.
That's like a setup for the year. Forget about it and just go do your work. The only caveat is that it's during the week.
Yeah, well, come see us.
But it's a beautiful place to visit.
It is.
Grab
and we have
your
weekends
friends
that we can take care of.
Bring a couple people. We'll probably figure out a way to make a little deal.
Make a little deal. Email Mike directly for that deal. But no, that can serve as our intro. I'm fine with that. I usually do a little intro but if it's your first time tuning into this specific podcast, go back to the last one we did, and that's a little more of an intro.
If you want to hear the intro.
If you want to hear the intro, but no, we're both coaches, athletes, best friends. Been doing this for 5+ years, 2 podcasts a week. And we talk about it all. We talk about we'll do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We'll do race recaps. We'll do race previews. But most of the times we just sit back and relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what our athletes are going through. Oftentimes, like today, we will follow up and do kind of a free Q&A session in our closed Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that, we'll hop on into those questions today. But that's it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads. We have one agenda. That's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey. Well done. And you look dapper today too, by the way. Listen, we all know if you know me, and I say we all know, there's like 4 of you that know me. It's not easy to outdress me, but you have unquestionably outdressed me basically every day for the last week. I'm not sure what's going on, but you're in like this nice,
I don't know,
a sweet flannel. I mean, if there's such a thing, t-shirt, and then you got a really solid pair of jeans on. Those are solid jeans. And your flip flops. I mean, they're not like your worn in flip flops, but like. What do they call those, fashion sandals?
Maybe, but these are the same ones.
They're solid. And you got your Last Minute Larry, one of my favorite shirts we've ever done. I think we only made like 5, but it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Last Minute Larry. You know who you are, Last Minute Larry. But today we're going to pop back in and go through, finish up the questions that we had from the Q&A list we did last Thursday. Obviously, we didn't get to those this past Monday because we hit up Ironman Florida, and I went on a little bit of a rant. I hope that rant was...
You got any follow-up on the rant?
On the rant?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like I ranted enough. I mean, I feel like I got my point across. I don't mean I could always rant about a lot of things, so could you. But I figure, you know what? In the spirit of making it to the podcast and trying to keep things nice and cool and calm, we'll hop right into our questions. Let me pop back. And I posted this morning that we were going to do this again in case anybody wanted to ask any later questions. So let me find that. I know we also skipped a few that I didn't blatantly overlook them.
Our first question is from Jason Kinnear.
Yeah, we got Canada in the house.
Canada's in the house. Normatech.
Man, where are these? Here we go. My feed keeps like scrolling down here. Here we go.
Yeah, meta.
Sean, I'm gonna start from the bottom.
That's a good idea.
Started from the bottom, and now we're here. Sean, as an overweight, newish triathlete, I always get conflicting advice. Would it be better for me to focus on shedding pounds or just eat a maintenance calorie and focus on getting stronger? I'm trying to be healthy and don't care about times. I just have a goal of doing an Ironman in 3 to 4 years. It's a great question. And I think as we saw last week when we were fielding these, there were a lot of nutrition, and fueling related questions. I think it's on top of everybody's mind this time of year, because you got the holidays coming up and everyone has these, it's goal setting time, right? Everybody looks back and reflects over how their year went, whether they think it was affected by, being too thin, being too heavy, poor nutrition, just day-to-day nutrition, which I actually think is an often overlooked problem, because I think the majority of people put way too much stock in physical appearance and how you are healthy, right? Because you could see somebody walking in the street and they could look thin. It does not by stretch of any means they're actually healthy, right? They could be living 500 calories a day. Their body could be eating themselves. They might do 4 hours of cardio, and at the same time they might be consuming a half a ramen noodle packet and
they're getting ready for that Instagram
and a peppermint,
shoot.
right? And that's not so. This has happened obviously more and more as social media has become so present. Is that image has become a way to portray yourself in a healthy or positive or well-being type manner. But the way you look and the shape that you are, yes, and it can project how healthy you are inside. But again, I think when we think of health, I think oftentimes we focus too much on the shape of an individual, not what they eat, how active they are. Or do you have connections with friends? How are you mentally? Health is just a huge thing. And so I think what you said about I'm trying to be healthy and don't care about times, I think it's how much would you consider yourself overweight? Are you trying to shed 150 pounds, right? Are you trying to shed 150? Do you just think you're overweight and you need to drop 10? I think you should look at it more of honestly in a more of an holistic fashion in terms of trying to figure out how to reach a specific weight on the scale. I've worked with athletes who in the past have set goals to themselves. They'll enter in training peaks, like they want to weigh, X pounds by a certain date. And I've been doing this for 10 plus years. Never has an athlete met that goal. Because it is a random day on the calendar that you pick to reach. And it puts so much pressure on yourself. I say, and I try to give out, I'm obviously not a licensed sports nutritionist or dietitian by any stretch, but I try to keep it as simple as I can. Eat as much, meat, veggies, and fruit as possible. And then do that 80% of the time. And then the other 20% of the time, eat whatever the fuck you want. Keep it, total restraint ends up sending you off in a bad area, right? Anytime you try to restrict things to total abstinence and you're just totally not having anything, you're usually going to regret that and end up, having 3 pizzas. And that's why you see people fluctuate. I would just say focus on being healthy, get into a healthy routine. Don't work out too much. And please, to have a good relationship with the sport and a good relationship with your body and your weight and your identity, don't wrap up weight loss into your triathlon journey, because then it becomes more of a chore. It becomes more of a reason. Yes, and it can be a part of it. It can be a part of your new healthy lifestyle, but it doesn't need to be, I'm getting a triathlon to lose weight, because then it becomes a reward based hobby, right, that you're doing. And if it doesn't yield that, then what are you going to do next? And so I think just incorporating eating healthier, being mindful, taking care of your body, as best you can. And usually if you're training and doing that, the weight is going to come off in a reasonable fashion.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say, is that I think I always would err on the side of eating enough that gives you fuel for what you're doing. Because I think if you don't fuel your body, I think it can tend to have the backfire effect, and it puts on weight if you're not eating enough, because then, you're not, you get tired, and then you're trying to store fat. I don't know how that crap works, but I think, cause I went through that when I started, and I just know that when I'm getting into training and I'm feeling good and I eat sufficient amounts of food, and I lose weight anyway, so I think that what happens is we're burning so many calories, and it just kind of happens naturally. That's why I think it's a patience game. And I agree with you about not trying to set dates and things like that, because then you just sort of force things and you kind of cut corners and what have you. And the next thing you know, you're tired, and then if you don't get enough sleep, I think putting on weight, I think sleep is a huge component of weight gain, because your body doesn't have a chance to sort of recover, and then, it stores food, and then you crave sugars and all that kind of other stuff. So, and also my big thing is always, when you're training for triathlon, is hydration and making sure you got enough water in your body, because then it works better and digests better and things like that. Sleep
is like the most underrated. I wouldn't consider it a weight loss, trick, but I would consider sleep as the most underrated focus that people just tend to neglect, that has a dramatic effect on their ability or inability to lose weight or get to a healthy, because it's about stress, right? It's that your body needs that time to re-energize. And listen, like I would, and I haven't read a scientific paper on this before, but I know how cortisol works and know what stress does to your body, that cortisol is basically getting your body to store fat. And so if the more stressed you are, the more higher your cortisol levels are going to be. And people literally stress out so much about getting on a scale or losing weight that it actually it just jacks up your metabolism. And you have to basically do like a hard reset on it, which is incredibly taxing on your body and frustrating. And all that's, all that tends to be more, it affects you more in an emotional way, because you're frustrated. You've been working so hard. Why can't I lose the weight? Why can't this happen? And oftentimes it's because people try so many drastic things that it ends up just, it ruins your body. Like to yo-yo back and forth between giving up this and giving up that and hardcore this and hardcore that. Your body's like, I don't even know who I am. I'm just trying to survive. And you basically have to do like a hard reset to figure it out. So, and again, sustainability, like nothing that's hardcore and crash course is sustainable. And you're going to end up just absolute crashing and burning. And that you see it every single January 1st, everybody runs to the gym. Everybody drops 4 or 5 pounds, which is mostly water weight, like the first week, because you ate and drank like shit for 2 months over the holidays. You go to the gym, you hit up the sauna with your bros, with your gallon of water, and you drop 4 or 5 pounds of sweat, right? You probably, 4 hours later, probably gain it all back just by drinking, like normal, like a human being. And they get so burnt out from restricting their calories in such a significant way and ramping up their physical efforts at the gym in such a dramatic way that their body's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like I felt okay for a minute, but now you're just squeezing me too hard. I'm going to revolt. And you're not going to sleep great. You're going to be tired. You're going to be fatigued. You're going to be grumpy. That's not the person that's going to be fresh, fit, motivated to go to the gym. And that just also comes back to like decision making. We'll get back into questions here in a minute, but and an athlete comment on Training Peaks over the weekend, that I sometimes this time of year on a Saturday, I'll give options. I'll say, hey, based on how you're feeling today, you can either ride, zone 1 or zone 2. You can hop in a group ride on Zwift, and do your thing, or you and ride hard, ride easy, whatever you want. Just have some fun, right? This year is about having fun, and this time of year is about having fun and relaxing. Or number 3, here's a main set for you to do. That's pretty hard. And he commented, he said, I woke up today. He had a super consistent week. And he's like, I woke up today, I just wasn't feeling really, really good. And while I wasn't able to get in a workout, I was still able to do like the easy, like zone 1 and zone 2 session. He rode for like an hour and 50 minutes. And I said, dude, like that is a workout. Like, I was going to say, and that is the best workout for you. Was the one that you did, because you made a smart decision. You made a smart choice that allowed you to take care of your body. I think that's just this stigma that's so twisted with athletes and with people, is that if it's not really hard, if it's not intervals, that it's not a workout, right? It's not a training session. Everything you do is training. Everything you do is a workout. And ultimately, if you have to be able to answer the question, was this workout good for me today? The person that you see going on a walk for 30 minutes a day, that's a workout for them. Like that is a workout. And it probably helps not only increase their physical fitness and make them feel better about themselves, it probably boosts their mental and emotional capacity for the day as well. That's how you should approach, and going back to Sean's question still, is like, that's what being healthy is about, is doing things for your body, not working against your body. And that's just, it's a very delicate subject for you, but it's something it's a mindset that's become so warped in grinding it out and beating yourself to death and how hard can I work, and I'll sleep when I'm dead, and like all that bullshit that's like, okay, well, have fun sleeping a lot earlier when you're dead because you're probably going to die 20 years earlier because you ran yourself into the ground and didn't sleep. I mean, like, how is that the key to longevity?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a saying called train to heal. I always tell people, like, especially if they're tired or they're a little bit niggled or whatever, just, these do workouts that, help you heal your body. And I think that's what you're saying is like walking or whatever does that. And I had a quick thought again on diet, and it's sort of like, and sleep. Sometimes I wake up after a really good sleep, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, damn, I'm ripped, because I think you feel good. But then the next day I could wake up after a bad sleep and go, man, I am getting bloated and fat and whatever. It's like one day later.
Right.
So that's another part of that psychology, I think, is when your brain is fresh and you're feeling good, generally, you probably feel a little bit better about how you look. So I think those are
because you're generally positive, right? Like you're generally a positive mindset because you feel refreshed.
I mean, that we could go into that topic forever because
that's right.
It's like no matter what's going on in your life, if you look at it from a different perspective, and sometimes you just can't because you're just too, tired or worn down or whatever.
And you're too close to the situation to realize, like, that's why you need somebody, a best friend or coach, to be like, dude, slap him inside the cheek and be like, dude, get your act together. Like things are not that bad. Like we can. Let's keep
That's
this.
When I haven't seen somebody in a while, I always say, man, you look good.
No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Because you don't want to.
Broken both legs in her wheelchair. Like, dude, you look fantastic. Have you been to the gym?
I mean, you must have everything going right.
You must have everything going right. Sophia, how can we learn to run fast by running slow? I understand the endurance training with the zone 1 or zone 2 has a strong base, but don't we have a strong base just coming off the tri season? Hopefully this question makes sense. It makes sense to a degree. I don't understand what you mean, I guess, by saying how can we learn to run fast? It's probably more how do we become fast? And it's not about running slow, and that's like, we have a few podcasts called, running slow to get fast. And yeah, the truth of the matter is, for the majority of athletes, you don't run enough mileage. And I also think your word choice there of strong base is incredibly relative. People who consider themselves having a strong base is very relative. Like, what kind of mileage do we consider having a strong base? Yes, is there, and that's the other thing is, like, the majority of our athletes that I work with, and if you look at marathon, like elite level marathoners will, do their hardest efforts in like the 4s, but a majority of their training, and they'll race in the low 5s, but the majority, 80% or more of their training is in like the high 7s to high 8s. There's a 3-minute disparity. It's that significant. And because the trick is that you can do more of it, right? You can do more easy running than you do more hard running. And also there's a huge benefit to running a lot of easy mileage. It's good for you. It's great for adaptation. There's like millions of articles on, and it's not running slow, right? I think that's like, it's not, for most people, it's about running slower than you usually do because you spend too much time in the gray zone, which is, there's just not nearly enough ROI and you're usually too sore, but it's about make your easy, 75, 80% of your runs, and make your hard 20% of the time. But do we hit the track? No. Do we do threshold and tempo work and hill work? Like, yeah, a lot of it. But that's the icing on the cake. And while it feels good, and again, it looks good on paper to be able to do, it's never going to matter in a race unless you have the base. And that's just something that you have to have. And so I think, having a strong base is relative. Yes, if you're coming off a huge quote unquote tri season, should you have a huge base? Yeah, that's honestly why you should be putting a little icing on right now, doing a little bit of harder work, hopping in some 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, and absolutely blowing it out of the water. But if you ask any athlete, you could run for 12 weeks, you could run 6 days a week, and you could do none of your efforts at or even close to your 5K, goal, and you'd get close to it by running easy 95% of the time because you're accumulating more mileage. Than doing track workouts that are going to beat your body to a pulp, and then wake up the next day and think, okay, well, I can't run today, and I can't run tomorrow, and then I'm too sore to probably run Friday. So now I'm going to run 2 or 3 days a week versus being able to run 5 to 6 days a week, while still adding in, tempo and just being strong enough, because you have to be strong enough to be fast. And it's not vice versa. Yeah, you can be fast for like a half mile, but that doesn't equate to being fast the last half mile. And I think that's a huge disconnect with athletes, but you're still going to be faster. And like, that's a very common thread. Like when you see athletes who have ran a lot, in hot, especially like hotter weather, they hop in, they're like, dude, 5Ks. Like I had no idea I could run that. I haven't run this level in, a certain amount of time or at all. And then you pop in and you rip off a 5K because you've been putting in, 25, 30, 35 miles a week for months. Like your body, same thing goes for cycling. Like the guys in the Tour de France, they ride probably 14, 16, 17 hours a week. 90% of that is at easy volume, right? Like all the big polarized training type papers. Steven Seiler, he has done most of it. He was like the groundbreaking guy that did it on the Norwegian cross country team, because cross country skiing is like one of the hardest endurance sports you're ever going to do. And he did all kinds of research and papers and studies on their training and how they developed it and how they and how polarized training, how they kind of structure their entire year. And 80, and obviously it varied. Like there would be, sometimes 90% of their training over the course over a specific block or period would be in zone 1 or zone 2. And then 10% might be at threshold. And then you'd see somewhere it might be 70-30, right? Or even 65-45, rarely that. But then it varies, but it always can end up being around 75 to 85% was just kind of logging volume, at below, ventilatory threshold. So where you can actually, you're making your body more efficient too, is the biggest thing. And that's why I think athletes misunderstand the concept of running in zone 2 and how and why it helps is your body becomes a more efficient machine. And that efficient machine is also more efficient at fast speeds. And that is something that I think it's hard to wrap your mind around. But it works. And that's how your body's made. And so if you look up Steven Seiler polarized training, and you'll just like, hey, most of like 85% of all our stuff was just zone 1, zone 2. He breaks this down into like 3 zones, which is basically zone 1 would be zone 1, zone 2, but that's where they kind of hang. That's where they kind of stay. They don't mess around kind of in the middle. I know the Norwegian triathlon coach who was coaching Gustav Iden for a long time, and Blumenfeld, they do like almost no work over threshold. They do like all easy stuff and just threshold. Like they don't do anything over that, do a lot of tempo. They do a whole lot of work at threshold, and most of it, almost all of it is at like just completing volume. So yes, there has to be some.
Seems to work for him.
It seems to work that's how most well, I'm not a professional, I don't have that kind of time. Running is the one where, again, like it's so impactful on your body because of how load bearing it is, that it's the one that you have to be the most careful with. And at the flip side, that's also why you could easily, again, and I would challenge you, go out, run a 5K this weekend, okay? Then for the next 12 weeks, go back to our How to Not Suck at Running first podcast, where I broke down 30%, 20%, 10% of your volume in time or mileage over the course of your week, and how to ramp it up. 3 up, 1 down, 3 up, 1 down, 3 up, 1 down. You got 12 weeks. Make all of those easy runs, all of them. But then work hard on the bike and work hard in the pool and get your anaerobic work in swimming and in cycling that's not load bearing and not going to rip your body to shreds. Those transfer over. Like we have discussion all the time. Like when you hop out of this, out of the swimming pool and go for a run, your body's like, all right, disengage swim fitness, engage run fitness. Like it all transfers. Like you don't have 3 separate compartments in your body, or disengage run fitness and engage pick up basketball game fitness, or ultimate frisbee fitness or something like that. Like it's all about aerobic capacity and how fit and healthy you are. And those things transfer. So work high, work some threshold VO2 on the bike. Don't work hard at all on the run, but do that and run 6 days a week for 12 weeks. Guarantee you'll run faster.
All right. I'll take that guarantee, but
book it.
I have a couple thoughts on that real quick.
Take all the time you need.
Well, I will. Whenever I think of track workouts, the first image that comes to my mind is like, triathlete getting over there and setting up the blocks and getting down in their stance and like going after it, and so one of the things I always think about as far as the zones and doing that interval work is, are you keeping similar form? Because like if you go out and do a track work, I think that at least the temptation would be to be running with high knees and long strides and really flying, and it's like something you never do. And I think that's why a lot of people get hurt. So my question becomes, can you run the same? In other words, I think a lot of people that run zone 1 get real lazy with their run or their form. And then zone 2, maybe it's getting closer to what it may be in a race. And then zone 3 is kind of like that in-between zone or whatever. And then zone 4 becomes this completely out of control thing. So what I've been practicing a lot lately is this idea of moving through the zones, right? And it's just breaking, that low zone 3 to up to zone 4. And I think a lot of triathletes, it's interesting you said he has 3 zones, because I was just thinking, I think a lot of us could probably have 6, and because the reality is, if I really try to keep my beginning of my runs in that 1-2 zone thing, but lately what I've been trying to do is over the course of maybe do a 3-minute interval. I'm just trying to I'll do a little bit of a walk session, then I'll get into zone 2 for about 2 minutes. And then for the last minute or so, I will gradually take that up through zone 3, because I think what it does for me is it keeps me relaxed. And I don't think that speed work in our game, especially long course racing, is flailing out of control, hard running. I think it's just faster. It's just faster and smooth.
And stronger.
It's
right?
Smooth, strong. How fast can you go smooth and strong versus I know for sure that I could run faster when I'm doing this. I could go faster, but not for very long, maybe 50 yards. And I would be whoa, I look down there and I'll see 6-minute pace or something. But instead, I'm more interested in those high 7s, because to me, if I could get anywhere near that on any of my races coming up, I would be in business. But can I get to it in a comfortable place where I'm breathing smoothly and relaxed, but it's definitely harder breathing. It's definitely zone upper 3-4 for me versus what I have been doing.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very similar, to the length and the distance in which you're trying to excel at. Right? It's like you said, my 1 mile. I want to get my 1 mile down, and that's great if you're going to approach in a way that's also going to benefit. It's like the ridiculously idiotic Garmin race predictor, right? You rip off one best mile at 6 miles. It's your Garmin marathon race predictor is qualifying for Boston in the Olympic trials. Congratulations. And you're I haven't ran longer than 5 miles in 2 years, but thank you. But that's how people think, right? It's about how fast, but it literally doesn't matter, because if your body breaks down, and again, I think we even referenced this last week. So much of long course racing, your fastest mile is irrelevant. It's what your slowest mile is. It's the sum of your slowest miles versus the sum of your fastest miles. And that's about being strong. 90% of athletes should never even do that much zone 4 and zone 5, VO2 max intervals. They should do tempo and hill work. And that'll get you 90 to 95% of the way there. And if you get 95% of the way there, then you're more than well equipped to do some VO2 max or some really hard intervals, because you have a cake with icing to put sprinkles on. Okay, you don't skip the icing. Just try to add sprinkles on top of a 1-layer cake. No one wants that. They're gonna ask you what happened and if your kid made it. Take care of it. And this is also a great time. Going back to what you said about establishing, kind of seeing what kind of zones you have and what kind of feel and the range you have to hold it. This is a great time of year for progression runs. We always talk about negative splits, is heading out and running make your first mile needs to be slow, warm up, super easy pace. And your last one, open half marathon to kind of 10K effort. See the range in which you can make that disparity. It's a fun way to keep and it's because it's practice. And like you said, holding yourself back, but also maintaining form, because you can't start off a workout sloppy and end up feeling fast and efficient and smooth at the end. And it's just a great way to kind of see what your range is, but also going to see what kind of feel and patience you have with your body. I did one last Friday, for example, just going to be an example of what it might look like. I ran 6 miles. My first mile was 9:24. Second mile was 8:38. Third mile, 8:19. Fourth mile, 7:56. Fifth mile, 7:29. Sixth mile, 6:52. So I worked my way down, 2.5 minute mile difference over just 6 miles. And my last one was the fastest, but it teaches you how, because you should always know the kind of the disparity between your easiest and your hardest. And that should be a huge range, 2 minutes at least per minute mile. Think about how much time that is, right? And then basically you finish your fast mile and then stand still for 2 minutes. Seems like an eternity, right? So when you take that kind of visible loss of time, go to the end of your 70.3 or the end of your Ironman where you came out of the gate too hot and you were ripping like 8-minute miles for the first 3, and then by the last 3 they're 12-minute miles, right? Your last 3 are 12-minute miles because you went out too fast. That's 12 minutes you lost versus the first one from going from 8 to 12 on each. So you should combine that by 3, it's 12. That's a long. Think about standing still for 12 minutes. Like that seems like in a turn. I mean, you stand in line in the grocery store for 30 seconds. You're like, oh my God. Like, I think I'm going to post it on Facebook. Like, what are they doing? Can somebody page the next cashier? This place is a wreck. I'm never coming back here ever again until tomorrow. But no, that's hopefully I answered your question. Joel, how do you transition from triathlon to marathon focus after completing an Ironman and not losing fitness in the swim and bike while still training to BQ? That is a very, very tough one to answer. One, because yes, the biggest question basically, okay, so you did an Ironman, you're focusing on marathon training. Yes, you just did a marathon distance. It probably wasn't near at the effort you are going to need to run and race to get a BQ. But you should, and again, it's still relative, and how close you were to a BQ time in your Ironman versus, I mean, if you're like an hour and a half off, then it's probably going to take you a minute. If you're 30 minutes off, 20 minutes off, then you probably already have a really good base and a foundation or run long. You don't need to keep churning out 20, 25 milers. You need to be doing 13 to 17 miles fast. Like you've obviously, if you're that close and you're considering a BQ, and you're doing it that close, Ironman, you've already got the endurance. You've already got the base. Now it's time to put some icing on it. It might not be the best cake you've ever built, but you've got some. And I honestly think, in my experience as a coach, we have had a ton of athletes BQ about 7 to 8 weeks post 70.3 training, because you got a good enough base. You've put in some 12 to 15 mile runs. So you got a good base, but you're working on being fast, right? You're overall just really, 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 really fit, and you're obviously competitively fast. And then 6 to 7 weeks after that, like you got time to downtime. Just take away, leave in one swim or one ride a week, depending on where you are. I would just trim down how much mileage you need to increase, because also based on how fast you are and like how quickly you can cover that kind of distance, how much mileage you need to get in or how much time. Maybe do like a Monday easy swim and a Friday easy ride, kind of as like active recovery to just kind of keep the motion going. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe chip off some runs, and then Saturday, Sunday, you probably only run, like combine a few two. Having said that, if you're a person that still needs to add in some like speed and some threshold work because you are lacking in that area, I would 100% keep cycling in there at least twice a week and make them hard. Like, that's a great way to kind of, it's not a cheat code by any stretch, but it is a great way to work at an anaerobic capacity while building up a ton of, like, you could get your run easy volume up to like 45, 55, 60 miles in the week. But if you're smashing it on the bike and working the anaerobic capacity while still getting in some longer tempo type work on the run, you can get close, right? Depending on what kind of ability you have. But something's got to give. You can't go BQ coming off Ironman training, and if take a few weeks off, right? You take a few weeks off and focus on one thing. Like 80% of triathletes are ADHD. Like they can't keep focus on one thing. They're just all over the place. Stay focused and take a little bit of time. Like just take some time away, like, and focus on one thing. And because it's different too, to just focus on one thing, but you're probably also be increasing your run volume up more than you had in training for Ironman. So you get to remove stress in one area to be able to add stress in another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I suppose it all comes down to too, how did you train for Ironman? Because like for me, when I get done with Ironman, a marathon is absolutely the last thing on my mind.
Exactly.
So
no, thanks.
But I love what you said about the 70.3 though, because you kind of have a little hunger coming off that, and you're fired up about going a little faster and things like that. But to turn around and train for a marathon after an Ironman, man, I just feel like it fatigues me mentally and physically for like a month or more. That's just me. And I don't think you may have put in a lot more mileage before Ironman and, recovered better and things like that. So all those things come into play. But yeah, to your point about, having the hunger to actually, and the ability, I guess, to suck it up, to go faster on things. And I like the bike thing. We had a podcast, I think it was like podcast number 6, and we were talking about this yesterday with that guy that came in, the swimmer, how swimming helps you run and how going hard in the pool can help you run, because it really builds your aerobic capacity, and it also helps your core so much, and I think that's a hugely neglected part of trying to run fast, is having a strong core.
It's a total body workout, just like running is. You use your arms in running a lot more than people think they do. That's why you see people shaking their arms out towards the last like 10 or 15 miles, because their arms are getting tired from holding posture. Like they 100% transfer. It's obviously not the load bearing. You get that from the running. Last question we had, Brett, off-season weight training. Would you increase the number of sessions? What would your focus be? Increase is relative, obviously, based on what you're increasing from. There's a lot of good science behind weight training and its benefits for running economy, especially at speed, at high speed, and then cycling power. But those movements they're not leg extensions. They're not hamstring curls. They are, they're not calf raises. They are power lifts. They are squats, power cleans. Like, they are the heavy, explosive movements. Back in the day, like when I started training, it was all, like, this is endurance weightlifting. We are going for a long period of time. We need to do 3 reps of 20 because, we're long distance no. Science has basically said that's a whole bunch of bullshit. Like, it basically says, like, we're talking like 3 to 6, like three sets of 6 reps, high weight, explosive movements. That's what makes you have a better running economy, and better cycling power. As a coach, I don't prescribe those to athletes unless I would 100% certain that they can do them efficiently and correctly, because those are movements that are not very forgiving when it comes to having really, really poor form. I think you said this a few weeks ago in a podcast. I said, you should lift 100 like you lift 300, right? So it's all technique. And once you get to heavy and explosive movements, you have to have the right technique. And so most athletes don't have that proficiency in Olympic style lifts, which is where a lot of the science is. And so I don't hand those out unless, again, I know they're incredibly proficient in them. Most of the stuff that I hand out and have athletes do is more, we can label it weight training, but to me, it's just a different way to spell injury prevention. It's like, do body weight movements, do some things that are going to prepare you, make you a little more stable and stronger in areas that we need to keep strong. It's more about injury prevention than it's about, getting or being stronger. Obviously that changes for the age of the athlete. The older you get, the more likely it is you're probably going to need some kind of a weight training. And then obviously if you're a female, once you get to a certain age, it's even more likely you're going to need some, but it varies. But that's the biggest thing, is if you're going to do like again, heading to the gym and wasting your time on the leg extension, the curl machine, and calf raise, and doing stuff like that's old school, been debunked. Not like, you're better going for a run, right? You're better hopping on the bike and doing some big gear work. If you want to really see some benefits, hop in and get some explosive Olympic lifting, or have somebody teach you that you trust. No offense to the why, but don't have like the personal trainer who works 2 hours a week there teach you how to do a power clean and all of your Olympic lifts.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned posture, and since we talked a lot about running today, I've been thinking about this a lot, where we sit at a desk, and I think our natural tendency, especially if we're putting a few pounds on the belly, which I tend to do at times, is for that to lean forward. If I stand up and I look in the mirror, I have like a natural curve on my lower back, and I really think a lot of that is because my core is or my lower back, or one of the two, or both together, isn't quite strong enough to hold my posture throughout the run, which maybe ends up translating into hamstring overextension because of the angle of things. And so I've really been thinking about that, as far as like, we talk about core a lot and why it's important. You think about because it would move your legs or whatever, but I think it's holding that form and that posture, because once you start, that lean, people kind of just start, shuffling along or whatever. And if you look, most people's guts are kind of out It's just that, first thing you ever heard, stand up straight and
give me good posture.
Give me good posture. And I just really think that there's something in there as far as being able to hold on to that run longer. If you just naturally have a stronger core that can hold your body up and not have it sort of leaning forward in the wrong way.
Right, exactly.
Slouching.
You want to lean forwards with intent, right? Because you're the one controlling the lean. You don't want to slouch, right? You don't want to feel, or because you can see this, especially if you watch like the last half marathon, of Ironman, especially the last 3 or 4 miles of a 7.3. You can see people's bodies like in their form crumbling. Like you can see it from a top down. They start to just crumble. And when you have bad form, bad things happen and you get injured. And that's why going back to what you said about going to the track, like you're literally never going to run like that with that stride and that cadence and that much impact at that length and that velocity and force at any period of time during a race. Your body isn't prepared for it, but you're going to go smash it during the day. So yeah, it's about being strong. So do things that make you feel strong. Like you can go all day long, right? Because that for a lot of athletes, not all, but a lot, it's about being able to go longer and hold that form, because as soon as your form goes, and then going back to the swimming analogy, it doesn't matter your aerobic capacity, doesn't matter your anaerobic capacity, doesn't matter how great your technique is. Once you get tired and your form falls, you start to go slow. And it doesn't matter what kind of, we see in the endless pool all the time. We'll correct someone's technique and they get faster, but then they can't hold it for more than a minute because they're already tired, right? You have to have fitness to hold form. And that, like, it's hard to, you can learn form in stretches, but you can only do it for a second. But for most of you, it's about doing it for hours, right? So it's not going to be something you're going to hone in a second. It's something that's going to need to be implemented into how your overall technique is. And so it's about, like you said, just about being strong. But yeah, if you want to run fast, hold form. Like you can always tell, like when you watch like a marathon, the commentators are like, yeah, they're starting to lean a little bit, or they'll have like, every athlete has like their cue, like, there's Jimmy, he always leans to the left when he's starting to like get tired and fade a little bit. Like everyone has kind of like their telltale, or people, lean back a lot, like on their heels, because they're trying to slow down because they're hurting so much. So everyone has that. So just I think it's a good thing to recognize as well.
Mm-hmm. One quick thing, because I love yoga, and the reason I think I do is that it just triggered something for me. Holding form, like if I like to do these warrior poses, right, that are basically that they're kind of a parallel for what you might want to do on a track. It's that sort of longer, extended kind of running. But like I love to get out there and just hold it for as long as I can without, you're not running, but you're holding that sort of plant position, if you want to call it that, because I think that's what happens in a lot of Ironman, because I have hamstrings, but so many people have quad issues on like Ironman or a half or whatever, and a lot of that's because of the bike, but I think it's also because like we lean and we ended up putting so much weight on that plant over and over and over, and if you're heavy or whatever, it just becomes your muscles aren't strong enough. So that's why I love to get into those poses and just hold them, just to create a strength in that position. And it's well out further than I would ever run, but it's sort of similar to like in the pool, like how you would get strong with a really long reach. If you have that, then if you have a little bit of a shorter reach, you're even stronger in there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and for most people, it's just the length is how strong you are to hold the reach in which you're reaching, right? If that makes any sense. It's like you can reach really far, but if you don't have the strength that's going to complement that far of a reach, you're going to stop your reach halfway to the bottom, and you're going to end up not being able to do anything. So you're better off only reaching to the degree. It's like,
it's a relative reach.
It's a relative reach. It's like, I can jump house to house. Really? Can you? Yeah, I'm pretty secure jumping 3 feet away versus 6 feet away. Like I know the kind of hops I got, right? I got no hops. I can barely get the rim. But I'm not going to pick 3. Somebody might pick 6, right? Because they know how far they can go. Same thing goes with the reach. Like, you got to know where your strengths are and how much of that strength you have and when it's going to fade. Because if all you're getting is the front portion and your arms fatigue because you don't have the strength to hold it, then your reach isn't a reach. Your reach is a reach and then a dead spots for two, periods behind the back of the stroke. It's very, very relative in knowing what you have and knowing how to use it. And it all comes with body awareness in yoga.
Is that why you
warrior pose
promote the stick drill?
Most people, if you give them a stick, they're going to struggle. Some people do well. It's a good Janet Evans drill. If you don't know who Janet Evans is, look her up.
Anyway,
fantastic. Anyway,
time to go to run camp.
That's it. We love you. We appreciate you. Hope you had a great Thursday. Hope you have an amazing and awesome weekend. Get out, enjoy yourself, have some fun, hit the trails, hit the road, hit the pavement, gravel, whatever you want to hit. Go hit something. Do something with your life. As always,
do something with your life.
Do something with your life. As always, hit up our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. Check out our club membership for sure. Club Plus, Club Hub. You name it, it's there. Or even Grubhub. Talk to Mike. If you have any questions for Mike, he's at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy.
See you, dude.
Drive safe. See ya.